Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I think the song actually got it incorrect. I think it's the most wonderful time of the year was meant for early September. I've stated my case on numerous occasions why this part of the year is the absolute best. And one more reason, on top of the great weather and football coming back, is the return of a Dave and a Dan, the weekly variety. I know you guys love those futures we gave you, but we got Dave and a Dan week 1 in the NFL. I know it's an extremely busy week. They tell you to relax. They tell you not to bet too much because it's week 1. And what do? You overbet by a mile, but you can't blame someone. Someone's been hibernating, like in my case, since the end of the Stanley Cup. We're coming out firing week 1. And today we'll talk about some of our maybe week 1 theories. I feel like me and you kind of differ a little bit going back to Malik Neighbors. You know, you don't mind taking shots on guys who you've never seen play a regular season game, where I like to try to take some trusted sources where I know, at least I think I know what I'm going to get. But Dave, welcome in week 1. How's your week going so far? I mean, it's a great time. No more baseball for you, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's the real edge. No, man, I'm glad to be back. I loved doing this show last year. Loved having your audience with us as well. And I'm looking forward to another good season. But yeah, dude, I'll tell you what, the weather around us lately has been already perfect. And now you're right. September is the time of the year where you just kind of can't go wrong. One more thing. I'll tell you, they say don't go crazy in week 1. You got to pick your spots, but shouldn't you be doing that every week? Like, it shouldn't just mean that in week 2 you hire on every game. You know what I mean? You should still be picking your spots. Week 1 can absolutely punish you and teach you a lesson in the sense that things happen that you didn't otherwise expect to happen. I used an example of like Denver last year. No one expected their defense to be good. No one expected Jaden McDaniels to go to the NFC Championship game. Other teams, people didn't expect to be as bad. So, yeah, you can get humbled quickly, but I think that's why you pick your spots. And that's why you pick your spots against targeting rookie pass catchers, which is fine.
You know what's funny? Like, I didn't even really think about that. Don't go crazy week 1 inherently means you're allowed to go crazy some sort of other week when you feel comfortable.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
Hey, look, you know, I'm not here to tell people how to live their lives. I may have bet a little more than I'm comfortable admitting to. Yeah, I'll probably just lie about how much because, you know, you have, you know, throughout the course of the season, me and you we're fighting for lines. Like, oh, Wednesday, did they put everything out? We've seen a considerable amount of these lines already, even if they didn't have everything. You've seen most of the player props, all the integral players, the receiving props, the rushing props. And week 1, just like in DFS, where you have the entire month to see the prices listed for week 1, and then all of a sudden you have 6 days essentially every single week after that. But week 1 is wild in that you have weeks and weeks and weeks. And you know what? I'll even talk about a bet that I put in a few weeks ago. And this goes back to what I was saying about players I've seen before and I know what they do. There was a bet that I put in a couple weeks ago, not to get, you know, solid plus EV, but I knew the number would theoretically go up. This is one of, I want to say, my favorite bets of the week, but the numbers have gone up. So I want you to tell me maybe how you would play it. And this is J.Warren Warren. Pick your reception prop, whether it was the over on his receiving yards, which was like over 14.5 like 3 weeks ago because there was like so much uncertainty. I don't know why. I honestly don't know what was wrong. Like, I think I was looking for futures and I just happened to see his week 1 number and put it in there. But J.Warren Warren, my belief here is Aaron Rodgers post-Achilles injury does not like pressure at all. There are games last year, Braylon Allen, Breece Hall, both getting 4, 5, 6, endless catches. Yeah. And we know J.Warren Warren, how good he is when it comes to receiving. And now this year, I guess they're going to add to his rushing role. But J.Warren Warren against the Jets on a Pittsburgh team who has DK Metcalf, who's never played with Rodgers before, I could really see J.Warren Warren just chewing up catches.
I could see it too. I mean, the question now is just what type of role does Caleb Johnson have? But and I'm sure you've seen all of this too, like all of the depth chart discussion between these guys, and the depth chart in New England, and I think the biggest one probably was the Krosky Merritt thing in Washington. But the word is that, and from everything we've seen, is that pass blocking is an issue for Caleb Johnson. I've seen enough out. I've seen more than my fair share of Kenneth Gainwell, and I don't need to see much more. He's fine as a backup. It's just a guy that you never really wanted getting that many touches. I could see it. Not to mention, if Sauce Gardner, and again, these are a lot of ifs, right? It sounds like it may sound like I'm riding the fence in some of these things, but I promise you, it's just certain things are unknowns. Like Sauce Gardner, for example, 2 years ago, this dude was unbeatable. And then last year, he definitely took a step back. You didn't see that same level of elite play out of him. They lost DJ Reed. He's in Detroit now. So it's like Sauce Gardner is your premier corner there. It's clearly going to go up against DK Metcalf, who has struggled against great corners, against guys like Surtain and such. So, yeah, and the Jets' pass rush is good enough. It's not great. It's good enough. I could see it for sure.
My bet here really is about Aaron Rodgers. He hates backs that he can't trust. So I'm not too worried about Johnson getting too many snaps in this game. I think there's going to be a ton of Warren who just got kind of re-signed and they've committed to for another couple of years. And just with the lack of true playmakers, I think there are going to be some easy catches, and I wouldn't be surprised if he surpasses. He's also pretty dynamic, if you remember, in open space. Like, he's one of those guys. He can make people miss. He could take a screen 20 yards, on one single play. So that's just something that I put this bet in weeks ago. The problem is, like, I really would love the over 2.5 receptions. Just this week, it went from minus 140 to like minus 180. I'm thinking about a ladder play. I know we're just getting advanced real quick. We're already talking about reception ladders 5 minutes into the first show, but this is just something that I wanted to kind of bring to everybody's attention.
By the way, I think the whole Aaron Rodgers thing makes a lot of sense. But also, when you look at their depth chart, like outside of DK Metcalf, who, as you mentioned, playing his first game, they aren't exactly stacked with playmakers. I think whether you're trying to avoid...
They got nobody.
Exactly.
They've got nobody.
Whether you're trying to avoid pressure or not, it's certainly relevant. But you're talking about Calvin Austin, who missed a lot of camp with an injury. Roman Wilson, who I'm hoping he's good because I took a lot of him in best ball in the last round, but you have no idea. They don't really have much. I mean, Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, I know they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets, a lot of 12 personnel. So that's probably where you'll see a lot of Rodgers go to. But it's hard to believe, you're right, that Jaylen Warren isn't used a lot here. Look at this spider coming straight down. Do you see that?
You ever seen the movie Arachnophobia?
Yeah, I have. I don't know who's in it, but I've seen Arachnophobia many years ago.
John Goodman is the he comes in and he's the exterminator and comes in, and it's a ridiculous movie where a guy ends up face to face with a tarantula. So hopefully, did you just deal with that?
I got it. When we go back, you have to do a slow mo. You can see him coming straight down on the screen. It's good stuff.
I'll make sure to do an instant replay, slow motion, 60 frames per second, super slow with this thing coming down.
Just keep it in the hopper for our Halloween episode. That's all I ask.
We'll get some thunder and lightning playing over it. We'll make it scary, just about as scary as some of these lines I'm about to show you. How do you like that for a transition? Last year, something that we did every single week was we rolled out the spreads that just looked fishy. The type of spreads that, you go to a bar, you ask 10 regular guys, or as we like to call them, Dans, a regular guy, hey, what do you like? And they all say the same thing. They all think they know better than the lines makers, the people who set the lines. And these are the trap games, or as I like to call them, the rats. However, we chose to point this out on the most Dan-friendly year in multiple decades. Last year was the most customer-friendly betting favorite season in multiple decades. The sportsbook took a beating last year, so I don't know where you fall on that scale of, oh, well, let's ride that until it ends, or Terry Benedict and the other casino bosses are coming for their money back.
How much do I owe that guy now?
These rats have always shown their faces during football season. Lines that jump out on you and everybody's taking, you think it's a short thing, you get screwed. Mm-hmm. It's a catch-22. The most bet things, the things you want to hear about, the things you want to go to work and do your cooler talk and claim you know what's going to happen, those are the most popular things to talk about, but those are the biggest donkey bets. So we are kind of in a little weird situation where if you go to work and you tell, you got to take the alt receptions on Jaylen Warren, someone's going to say, what the hell, what are you talking about? Give me those front page bets. I'm in Puerto Rico. The sportsbook just allows you to pick a team and the number next to them. Give me a team name. So I'm going to pull up a couple of games here.
And while you do that, do you remember last year, though, because we did this show every week all the way through the Super Bowl, the first month of the season was the complete opposite of how it ended, right? If you remember the first week or first month of the season, the dogs weren't just covering, they were winning outright. I mean, you had these survivor leagues where there were no teams left by week 3 or 4. And you had spots where, like, the Raiders coming into Baltimore as 11-point dogs beating the Ravens. That's just one example, but I could point out, if you gave me a minute, a ton of games early in the season where all of the dogs weren't only covering, but a lot of them were winning. And then the landscape shifted so much to where if you were a big favorite, you're just insta-covering throughout the second half of the year.
It also makes sense that, as I said in my opening video, Week 1 is the opposite of midseason form. You want to know why? Because you have to work your way into midseason form. This is the earliest season form where you're most likely to make mistakes. You're most likely to get random upsets because teams have that random belief earlier in the year. Eventually, the lights turn out on them. But early in the year, when you had that one-win Jaguars team a couple of years back before they drafted Trevor Lawrence, it came in the first home game that they had, and then they never won another game for the rest of the year. So early in the year, especially that first month, you're likely to see random upsets along the way because teams are tinkering. Teams are trying to figure out what exactly they are, opposed to last year with the new players and how everyone's going to be integrated. So as you can see here, everybody is convinced that the Denver Broncos, after essentially a great year with Bo Nix last year in terms of where they were expected to be and where they ended up eventually being, huge favorites at home against the Tennessee Titans, 8.5-point favorites, more than a touchdown, yet that seems to be the favorite bet of the public. Essentially, they got a win by 9 at home against a Tennessee team who has some renewed energy, new quarterback. So how are we feeling about this one?
It's funny because and I mentioned this on I do the picks for every game video over on the Odd Shopper channel. And by the way, all of my picks just free this year. If you want to come check them out on Tails. Andy, you said you'd throw that link in the description for me, so appreciate that. Yeah, just click that, create a free account. It takes a second. And a lot of other sharp people that post free picks, some of our mutual friends, Ben, Greg, Eric, those guys. So come check it out. Hang with us for the season. Obviously, hang with Andy. But if you'd like some supplemental picks, come over there.
Go over there. Check them out. I click it sometimes. I see those picks. Maybe I steal them for myself and say, I got this great idea. No, I don't. But I was definitely doing that during preseason. I was checking out your picks. It really was easy. I clicked the link you gave me, and then it was just right there. So
went great until the third week of the preseason. But I always go light on that because it's insane. But anyway, I had mentioned that I had posted this one as well. This is the one chalky spot that I actually want to bet this week.
Okay.
A lot of the other spots, and we'll get to them, I don't really feel comfortable with, and I'm not even saying this doesn't feel like a Dan play or a Donkey play. You know how every week I kind of have one of these. I can't, and I know sometimes this is the wrong mental process, right? It's so tough for me to see Cam Ward, who was not particularly good in the preseason, by the way, against some second units, going into altitude in Denver against the Broncos defense that was very good last year, led the league in pressure rate, have excellent corners. They have, I mean, one of their corners, and Surtain is the best corner in the league, in my opinion. He's just, you can't beat him. You've got Tajay Spears is out, so you have Tony Pollard. They're going to have a tough time moving the football. Number one overall picks typically always struggle in their first game. Caleb Williams won last year, but if you remember, against the Titans, because I bet the Titans, we should have won that. I'll stand by that.
I love that. I love when a scorned losing bet
should have won that.
Still at the forefront of your mind. You knew you had that right away. It was there. You could tell me every play of the fourth quarter of that game, probably.
So my mistake, so maybe we shouldn't have won it, but my mistake was that, I mean, Will Levis is just so bad. But they won, the Bears won that game. I think it was 24-21.
Oh, the interceptions, the pick sixes.
Yes, 24-21. Caleb Williams threw for 96 yards, completed like 8 passes, and they didn't have a single offensive touchdown in the game. They may not have had an
That might be better than his week 1 stat line this year.
I like him this year. I like him this year.
I don't know. He might be fine.
We'll talk about it. But anyway, the Broncos actually got better. So I don't know. Does Nix regress in his second year like CJ Stroud did? Maybe, but Stroud had a bad offensive line. They had no run game to speak of last year. They brought in R.J. Harvey, who I think is pretty damn good. They brought in J.K. Dobbins. Like Marvin Mims stepped up big last year. Cortland Sutton's good. They brought in Evan Ingram. They have a good offensive line. So I get it. And by the way, I did bet it at -7.5, but 7.5 to 8.5 is a lot different than 6.5 to 7.5. I can't go Titans here, Andy. I can't do it.
I have one on this list where I'm going. I'll side with the Dans, and fortunately for everybody, it's this very next one. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Titans cover. I don't know, week 1. I mean, they could be up by 13 with 3 minutes left, and there could be some junk touchdown at the end. Like we said, but we're not necessarily going to get the Broncos week 8. We're getting this early Broncos where we'll see what happens. Anything can kind of happen. But this next one, you want to talk about things scarring you last year, watching Will Levis and his awful quarterback play. Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, it's not
this
good.
This guy cannot move the ball 9 yards. This guy, I'll be amazed if he gets 6 points in this game. That's how bad he looked. So this next one, the Cardinals, if I had to go with the Dans somewhere, I'm going to New Orleans, a place that, all right, here we go. Look, you know you're going to get a few of these. It has nothing to do with football. I don't care. I love when people like yo, I got to go to New Orleans, like the great food. You know who says that? People like from the South who really just have random Southern food. Someone who grows up on rigatoni bolognese doesn't go to New Orleans and go, oh my God, do you see the food? It's the low standard of New Orleans visitors does not mean that it's good food, because compared to where the hell you are, like, I don't understand. Stuffed rigatoni and alla vodka, it's probably better than every single dish in all of Louisiana. But yet I am supposed to believe, oh, they have the best food in the. It's a scam. It's horse shit. Sorry if you're from the South. There's a whole different barometer. There's a whole different world that exists, and you're just in the D3 of food.
Are you a gumbo guy?
No.
Yeah, I don't care for it much. I'll eat it. I mean, I like shrimp. I like everything that's in it, but I don't necessarily love it as it is. I'm sure it's great.
But do you imagine that, some person, I'm trying to think, comes from somewhere where it's like they somehow grew up like Arnold Schwarzenegger and twins, like on a remote island, and then you give them a premier Italian dish, and then you give them gumbo. This is like comparing a steakhouse with Taco Bell. In this game, there's no way.
Italian food is the best, by the way. It just
of course. It's so good that it's just kind of morphed into being American food. Like when people,
no, it's the best.
Anyway, As you can tell, if you're a first-time viewer, you may tell by the size of my nose. I obviously have a bias when it comes to that conversation. But when it comes to New Orleans and playing the Cardinals, I will tell you, Dave, last year, James Cook, he was my quote-unquote flag plan player. The guy that I'm going to go with this year, although it's not as strong of a feeling, but I'd say 80% of it, is Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he has the makings of a massive type of, I want to say bounce back year, but he did have like 900 yards, 6 or 7 touchdowns or something like that. But just when you look around him, you look at the other wide receivers there. Yes, there's Trey McBride, but that's it. The ceiling is the limit. He plays indoors. And I just think starting game 1, you're going to see what everybody thought they were going to see last year. I think you're going to see him elevate to that same type of status like Neighbors and the rest of them, the ones who got there in year 1. I think everything's set up well for Harrison to get there in year 2. And I bring that up because one thing that I love doing is finding totals that are low that I feel like are going to go up in short order. We're going to take the benefit of the number that was built by that bad year and try to be one sniff ahead by predicting the good year, which will theoretically start here in week 1. But I'm seeing anywhere from 55.5 receiving yards to 57.5 receiving yards for Marvin Harrison Jr. against the New Orleans. There's no more prime Lattimore there. You're not dealing with, these lockdown corners. And depending on how frequently Rattler has these Saints punting, there are going to be plenty of opportunities. I think this is the perfect spot for Marvin Harrison to start with a big game. I mean, I think alts are on the table, but I'm loving him here in week 1.
I like it. It's funny, isn't it, that, 885 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns as a rookie, due to some recent outlier performances, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Brock Bowers, those type of guys, right? That 885 and 8 is considered like an okay rookie season, which is bizarre. At any other point prior to the last, like, let's say 2 years, because 2 years ago there were also some pretty good rookie performances, that would have been a really good rookie season. So it's the way it is.
In this town, the bar moves quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I like another one from this game. If you wanted to just have some fun with it, like, because that's, you get your standard prop. I'll take it. James Conner 2+ touchdowns is plus 375 on Bet365. If Spencer Rattler is genuinely incapable of moving the football, I'm not convinced it'll be as bad as you think it is, only because you have a healthy, for now, Chris Olave, a healthy Rashid Shaheed, and Alvin Kamara.
Well, you know why Alex isn't here today, because he's prepping his team for week 1 in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Do you remember your lookalike for Alex?
Exact Kellen Moore. Yeah.
So that's why
that picture was was striking, wasn't it?
Oh, it was hysterical. I've been kind of stealing that from you ever since.
Yeah, it definitely looks like him. Head coach of the Saints now, eating his gumbo. But no, I don't think they'll be good. And trust me, I hear you. I think they still struggle to move the ball, but at least now he has somebody. I mean, if you remember who he was throwing to last year, you're talking like Marquez Valdez-Scantling was the guy. So I still think they struggle. And I could see, James Conner is the type of guy who early in the year, when he's not beat up, when he's healthy. And I know there's talk of Trey Benson going into his second year, getting some more work. They say
this every year.
Every year, right? I could see James Conner, if they control the clock, getting a lot of work. And he's actually, doesn't it feel like James Conner is kind of disrespected as far as like the hierarchy of running backs goes? This guy's, when he's healthy, he's actually really good.
He is 100% disrespected. And I got to say, disrespect is not the right word. I keep taking that. The problem was his first couple of years in the league, he was so injury prone that it's hard to remove that from your head. Like, so if he stays healthy for a year, you go, okay, well then that's his one healthy year. Now there are definitely injuries coming. because he's getting older and whatnot. And year after year, he keeps returning great value. So now we're at the point where like he's almost, I can't hop on now. I have to just stay off. And if he just keeps rolling out there, then so be it. But yeah, he is very disrespected because apparently like his metrics, his advanced metrics are also very good. So there are theoretically no reasons not to like him. But he's just one of those disrespected running backs in terms of, fantasy and just perception. But I think 2+ touchdowns could definitely be on the docket.
Yeah, you put a small play on it, you have a little bit of fun. Plus, there's all of these other they're doing a lot of these books are doing some of these like, jackpot things first, like on touchdown scores and stuff like that. So pay attention to that. Make sure you're on all these books for week 1 because you're going to have a lot of actual good promos, like legitimately plus EV promos. And it's probably bets that you were going to make anyway. Now you can just kind of tie them into these promos. I have one on this list that people are going to hate. I have the other side of one.
Let's go to the very next one there.
Go ahead.
80% on the 49ers -2.5. I feel like the 49ers are a civilization in slow decline now. Like it's, they hit they should have had 2 Super Bowls out of this. I mean, they had leads in both of them. And now you're just starting to peel layers. McCaffrey's back this year. Kittle's back this year. And then, I mean, you had Jennings just return to practice. And then there's Pearsall, who, everybody's probably trying to oversell you, but I'm not buying it like he's just going to be some stud out of nowhere. But what I want to say about this game, when you have a team like the Niners going on the road, you don't mess with plus points in home openers. I hate that number 2.5 having to take like the +2. I'd rather just take the Seahawks at plus money just for the win, but I definitely would not take the Niners on the road in division week 1. That's just a rusty type of, I don't know. I feel like they're really trying to bait you. Come on, it's the Niners. They were a little injured. Look, McCaffrey's back. Kittle's out there. Everything's going good. Just 2.5. Little field goal. Goes to overtime. They win it. You win. So I'm not going to take that bait. That one does smell like a rat. The thing that I wanted to ask you about was something that I actually, one of the very few, I think is the only thing that I texted you about yesterday, was last year in New Orleans, we had Clint Kubiak running that offense, and early in the season, before Carr got hurt, there was so much running, and there was so much utilization from the running backs, but it's a little bit weird because Kamara is just different than most of the running backs. Like he sometimes became that whole Saints offense. For a guy who loves running the ball as much, if not more, than Kyle Shanahan, I'm looking at these rushing totals for this game, and I truly believe that both Walker and Charbonnet could see a ton of carries. Now, the spread indicates that it's 2.5, whether you agree or disagree, which means the game is theoretically going to be close. If this is a close game, I could see Seattle just running and running and running and running. I remember some games with that New Orleans team before Carr got injured. They were stubbornly, even when it wasn't working, they were just 2 out of every 3 plays was like some sort of stretch run. And I could see something like that being utilized here in Darnold's first game.
Yeah, I could too. I don't like this game, though. I mentioned in the video that came out yesterday that I'd lean Niners, but I'm not betting it. And the reason is, yeah, you're talking about a home dog, not just a home dog, Andy, but a home divisional dog in week 1. The only reason I don't want, and I'll get to this too, but like the only reason I don't really want Seattle, I just don't really buy into Sam Darnold. I mean, we were talking about last year in the playoffs. You had them going up against the Rams, who started off slow and then came on strong late in the season. So who do you trust? McVay and Stafford, or do you trust Sam Darnold? Kevin O'Connell can only do so much. So yeah, maybe Kubiak and, McDonald, maybe they've got it dialed in on Sam Darnold. It's entirely possible. I don't know if Cooper Kupp is washed. I think the jury, by the way, is still out on Cooper Kupp. So
I'm gonna vote for washed.
But okay, maybe. But when you go back and look at last year, it's kind of odd that he's just mid-season becomes washed. Like the first.
Hey man, when a white guy hits 30, it's some kind of cliff. I'll tell you that.
but he was having big games early in the year and then gets in. I don't know. It's hard to.
I remember that early in the year, it was like 11 catches for like 98 yards. It was a lot of just to drag him there. Like in that game against the Eagles, man, this guy could not get open against like linebackers. It was really, really, really bad. So he'll have all the opportunity in the world.
I just wonder if he was playing with an injury. That's what I'm saying. But it's besides the point. All I'm saying is there's a lot of unknowns. The other unknown is all of this talk in the offseason leading up to now that like Zach Charbonnet, could be a 50-50 split with Kenneth Walker and all of that. You always hear that. But Kenneth Walker.
Every year.
All the underlying metrics on Walker suggest that when this guy's healthy, he's actually very good. So, I hear what you're saying. I like Walker a little bit more than Charbonnet here because I think a healthy Walker's still going to get a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that whatsoever. All I'm saying is for people to just keep a crooked eye on, see if the Seahawks I'm talking about like an absurd amount of rushing attempts. Just something to keep an eye on over there if they're going to be one of these extremely run-heavy teams, because it was very hard to dictate what the Saints were after Carr went down. Like they were running true bums out there and they were just getting destroyed every single game. But if you look at those early games, they were running so much and then using the play action effectively off of that. I think they started off 2-0 last year when things were working.
Not only 2-0, Andy, but they smoked Dallas. Like they embarrassed Dallas, remember? And then who did they face? It was the first two.
I think the first one was against like Carolina or something. I think they beat up on a bad team.
You know what? I think you're right. I think it was I think you're right. They came in, they crushed Carolina, they killed Dallas, and then the line on the Eagles game. The Eagles were like 3.5-point favorites. It swung to New Orleans -4 at one point.
Wow.
And the Eagles ended up coming in and winning outright. Now I think some of that was that I believe A.J. Brown was out for that game as well. But still, you had a massive, massive swing. I'm with you. Ugly game. I would urge everyone to at least keep an eye on Cooper Kupp. Because if he ends up, like if you see it, he's getting separation, there might be some good opportunities if the books don't adjust to that quicker. That's all I'm saying.
The next one, I'm just going to mention quickly. I don't really have any plays from it, but I thought this one was going to be the most heavily bet because I think the Dolphins still have a reputation from, being a really good team, at least offensively 2 years ago. And then, last year, Tua got hurt, kind of derailed a lot of stuff. People look at Indianapolis as, it's Daniel Jones. I thought everybody would just be stacking their bets. This to me is a king-sized potential rat in the making. Everybody at the bar is going to tell you, like, you got to take the Dolphins. I mean, they have Tyreek Hill, and then they have Waddle, and Tua's back, and they got Achane out of the backfield. This one is baiting you to try to take the Dolphins, and I'm not going to fall for it. That's really all I'll tell you there.
I'm actually surprised they're getting this many tickets are on them, and I have a sneaky suspicion as to why this may be. There is a very well-known and established trend at this point. The trend is total bullshit, by the way, as far as like actual anything. It's not predictive. That the Colts can't win in week 1, Andy. You go back and you look at the Colts in week 1, they can't win, they can't cover, and it's been going on for well over a decade. But the question I have is, if that is the case, tell me how, outside of just those raw numbers, how any of that suggests what's going to happen this year. Like, they've had different quarterbacks, many different quarterbacks, different coaches, different people in management, different personnel, different play calling, different stadiums, different matchups. How are you going to suggest to me that like Colts can't win in week 1 is a thing no matter who they put out there? It doesn't make it. I'm not saying they're going to win this week. What I'm saying is, if that's the reason you're betting against them, it's a really bad reason.
If you believe in that, you are the male version of a horoscope chick. It's as simple
Yeah,
as
that's
that.
exactly what it
You're
is.
a crystal rubber. You believe in leprechauns, the whole thing. Like if you think because in 2015, Phillip Rivers lost week 1 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I actually think wasn't 2015, but that did happen. That was that
That's
Jaguars.
funny. It's probably like 2021,
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, once you get old enough, decades
Or no,
start
that was
blending
Matt
together.
Ryan. That was Matt Ryan. When was it Phillip Rivers?
It was Rivers. Rivers was before Ryan. And
So
then
maybe it was.
they made the playoffs and lost to Buffalo.
Damn.
Yeah, they were rolling everyone through there. Rivers, Ryan, you name it.
Yeah, you're making the point though, right? Like they've had Matt Ryan, they've had Phillip Rivers, they've had Andrew Luck, they've had Carson Wentz, they've had Anthony Richardson, they had Gardner Minshew, they like all of these guys, you know?
So out of curiosity, Dave, is the pick that you like on the opposite side, does it happen to be in the next game?
No, and I actually took the Ravens at +1.5 yesterday, and now I'm seeing that they're -1.5. And this is the age-old question that you and I always have is when people post these numbers, are they posting it for the current line or spread, or are they posting it everything in total, right? Because the Ravens were dogs yesterday.
Were they?
Yeah, dude, I'm positive. And you know how I'm positive? Because I actually just pulled up DraftKings before the show and it was still stuck on yesterday from when I was doing this. And yeah, they were +1.5 yesterday. Look, that's from this morning, that post that you have up on the screen. That was
So I like the Bills in this game.
Okay.
A team who beat the Ravens in their last game, getting to play them again in their first game at home. I just like that recipe for the Bills. I think,
that's the reason I don't like them, which is funny that we have the same reasoning for not liking them. It's the
same reason I bet the Chiefs, or I picked the Chiefs against the Ravens week 1 last year. It's just like that momentum and belief. I mean, this happens in all sports. I talked about this in hockey. Do you know every single team who played each other in the 2024 playoffs or 2023, 2024 playoffs and rematched a team last year? Every single team who beat them the year before beat them once again. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 series. I'm talking about like 6 separate series. So there's something about the mental side of that, knowing you've beaten that exact team, especially in the last game that you guys played. I get, we'll see. There are some instances where that doesn't happen, but when you end someone's season, I just feel like you have that mental edge when you play them once again, especially on their own home field. So I'll actually take the Bills to win that game.
I didn't bet this, by the way, just for what I don't like these type of games where it's like these teams are insanely evenly matched, and those are the type of spots the reason I had thrown it out there, because I have to do a pick for every game in these, and I let people know, hey, if this is one I really like, I don't love this one, but this is where I'd lean. If you're getting the Ravens at as dogs, like just bet the money line. That's the way I saw it. I think it was like -102 or something. But I have a question for you. This is right in your wheelhouse. There's nobody that could piece all of this together better than you could. Do you remember how last season ended for the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, with that Mark Andrews drop.
Do they look to get, and Mark Andrews is saying, like, he was recently talking about it, it's not on his mind and this and that bullshit. I mean, that's crazy. The entire Baltimore fan base was coming for his head. Do you think they try and get him involved early? Now, granted, Isaiah Likely is out for an extended period of time. They have Lamar, they have Derrick Henry, you have Zay Flowers, you have, a good amount of players. Do they try and get Mark Andrews just out of the gate, loosen this guy up, and get him some good looks early on?
I think a touchdown, if nothing else.
Maybe an anytime touchdown on Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I'm not a big touchdown better, but it seems like a good spot for an Andrews touchdown. And because catches and involvement, it's just not the same as that touchdown and then celebrating with him and getting some redemption. He could have 95 yards and it still won't be the same as 20 yards and catching one for a touchdown. So I feel like if I was going to go the Andrews route, I would do something that I rarely do, and that is take him for a touchdown. This next game, there's something that I want to talk about, and it probably the chalk narrative is the Bengals are always slow starters. They lose all these games at the beginning of the year, but this time they played all the preseason games to avoid that. These are all the regular. You'll hear Stephen A. Smith talk about it.
Yeah.
There's one thing that stood out to me that I wanted to kind of point out to you and ask you what you think about it. It's known that the Bengals are just going to have bottom of the barrel pass defense, right? Maybe even run defense as well.
I think run defense too. Their one string, their first string defense got steamrolled in back-to-back preseason games by the Eagles and Commanders' second string players on the ground.
Okay, so that brings me to this.
Yep.
Joey Flax, who's literally playing with house money. We've seen him play with house money before. Like, this is end of the career YOLO type of play where he really starts slinging it. If he throws some picks, he throws picks. Against this awful defense, look at these totals you're seeing on the screen. Do any of these excite you? Because I'm looking at Tillman down there smiling at me in the high 30s. He's going to be pretty much in all 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 wide receiver sets. I mean, how can I not get excited in a home game against the Bengals defense when the Bengals have played pretty poorly out of the gate these last couple of years? And this is the same Bengals team for the most part.
Could not agree more. By the way, the Colts had Joe Flacco too. There's another one.
There you go.
They've had
Jesus
so many.
Christ.
Not week one, but still, like that's just another one of those guys that they've had in there. This is highly interesting to me. I don't know what to make of Njoku because there's all this, again, talk at camp. We're going to learn a lot in week one. It's just the way it is, of Harold Fannin Jr. and how this guy was going to, clearly, encroach upon Njoku's territory and get more work there. You know what? And no one says this shit more than you do. There's a good, we may look back on this in a couple weeks and go, dude's played 5% of snaps. It's entirely possible. But I would rather look towards a Tillman type who we know that he's been involved. And he's always overshadowed by the likes of Judy and Njoku and such. And I don't know what to make of Jerome Ford and anyone else they've got in the backfield. But they're 39.5 against this Bengals team. There's got to be something here where you go, okay, one, the Bengals defense is really bad and this is a shootout, or the Bengals offense is so good that they go up early and then Joe Flacco is forced to throw from behind for the majority of this game anyway. So I think there's multiple outs based on game script that could work for this passing game for the Cleveland Browns, for sure.
I think 70 yards is potentially on the table for Tillman in that game. So it wouldn't be a show unless I took us somewhere that we frequented many times last year. We kept dining at this place that was far from New Orleans because we wanted some premier food, and that was up in New England where.
Yep. Yeah, I know where you're going. Yeah.
You know who's coming. There he is. 31.5 receiving yards for Demario Douglas. He fed family. Oh, I bet this 100%. He fed families. I mean, look, so I actually don't trust that Diggs is good. I know he's going to be playing. I know he's going to be out there. I mean, guy tore his ACL in his 30s. That's you're out in my book after that. I'm not even congrats. You made it back. You're with Cardi B or whoever the hell. And then have like classic Hunter Henry. But with Josh McDaniels back in there. You know how their slot players are utilized. You know the plays that they draw up for them. And I feel like week one, Demario Douglas is going to have all the opportunity in the world to obliterate this 31. And by obliterate, I mean, 47 yards is obliterating a 31.5 yard total. But against the Raiders in a home game in Foxborough, I'm back. Week one, Demario Douglas. We'll track what the number is. It's 31.5 week one. Let's see what they put it at next week.
I think there were like 3 weeks in a row last year where you grabbed a Douglas over and I grabbed Keyshawn Booty over, and they just every week they're like 25 and 33.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't. Not only do I not blame you for going back, I applaud you for this. I wanted to ask you about another guy on this team, and this is another one of these situations where I don't know if you played any best ball or anything like that, but you had Ramondre Stevenson, whose ADP fell all the way to like 144. Even if you don't play best ball, you understand fantasy ADP. Not you, but the audience in general, right? Fell to 144. If you look at his counterpart, rookie, right? You're talking about a rookie in this offense, Travion Henderson. He went all the way up to 35 or so.
Yeah.
That's a massive gap. I think I'm the last person on earth that thinks Josh McDaniels is still going to give Ramondre Stevenson a lot of early down work out of the gate. Like, I think
I'll raise that. He's going to get almost all of the early down work.
I think so too. And again, we'll learn stuff, but as long as he holds on to the football, I get it that Henderson could become the guy later on in the season. But I'm not convinced that Ramondre Stevenson should just be left for dead early in the year. To me, it doesn't make sense that you're seeing such like the sentiment on him. It couldn't be worse.
Zero chance he doesn't crush his 41.5 yard total or whatever the hell they set it at this week.
Right?
Against the Raiders, yeah. He's crushing that total.
You want to talk about some of these drafts real quick. You look at him. And towards the end of the leading up to the start of the season, he was going drafted not only after like Travis Etienne and after Tank Bigsby, but also after Tootin in some leagues. And I use them as an example because you're talking about him being drafted after 3 running backs from the same team. And it's just odd that the expectation is you look at the preseason too. He was getting all of the rushing work in the game that he played. So, it is what it is. But I think what's he at? Last I looked, he was at 39.5 rushing yards, which I bet.
For who's that?
Ramondre Stevenson.
I believe he was like 41.5 or something like that.
Okay, so it's up a little bit.
He's in that ballpark, but still, I'm happy that everybody drove up Travion Henderson's ADP and whatnot, because it also drove down the rushing prop for Stevenson, despite the fact we haven't seen the Patriots play one regular season game. And,
right.
I really do think, and by the way, even when I hear quote unquote analysts talk about Travion Henderson, they're acting like, no, this is someone who's going to do a ton with his 10 touches a game. They're not acting like he's going to be the lead back. They're acting like he's going to be what Gibbs was year one. Like it's going to be mostly Montgomery and then Gibbs in this more of a change of pace and when you need a spark or when you're playing from behind. So I guess we'll find that out. But if the early work is going to Stevenson, which I think it will in this game, a lot of opportunity there against a team that they should probably beat. I have one more that I think is just a great number that I wanted to bring up to you.
By the way, Odd Shopper live odds screen, for those of you guys who want to check it out, it's totally free.
Yes, and I use it because it obviously shows where I need to be putting certain bets in. I mean, some of those, like Cedric Tillman was 38.5 on Bet Rivers, but then Njoku's lowest was on DraftKings, I believe, and Judy's was on FanDuel. So you kind of got to know, and those yards, they add up. But once we found out that Matthew Stafford was playing, I think he's even off the injury report. So we're just getting regular guy Matthew Stafford playing in this game, and Davante Adams coming in at 54.5 in terms of receiving yards. If you tell me Stafford's playing, this is just one. I think this is one that I got to go with. That is a very low total for Davante Adams. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, Texans have a fantastic secondary, but I don't know how much it matters. I'm hard pressed to think that you don't once again have a massively concentrated passing offense around Davante Adams and Puka Nacua. Not to mention, Andy, this is not a team that throws to their running backs all that frequently, right? Like, sure, Kyron Williams will pick up a couple here and there, but this is not the type of team that, Breece Hall seeing 10 targets in certain games. You're not going to see that. And I don't see any reason why Davante Adams couldn't come in and just immediately take like a 27% target share. I'm really, it's funny. It's fascinating, I should say, to think about this passing offense this year. If I were to ask you at the end of the season, assuming all things are equal, everybody stays healthy, right? What would you put Davante Adams and Puka Nacua's target shares at? 30 and 25? Reverse. So Puka 30 and Adams 25?
I'm not convinced Puka gets more time. I mean, I think Adams it's just, I feel like Adams and a veteran quarterback like Stafford is, as long as Adams didn't lose a step, as long as he still is, who kind of what we saw in like training camp, if you were watching against the Cowboys and whatnot, and some of those clips of him, but as long as Adams still kind of who he was last year before that, didn't really look much worse to me, then I feel like he's the perfect guy to sync up with a 37-year-old veteran quarterback like Stafford. Right. I understand that Stafford was really just zoned in on Nacua, but I'm telling you, that's because Kupp wasn't really getting open, and the one guy that was constantly doing it was Nacua. If Adams can kind of, provide a legitimate second option, I wouldn't be surprised if their target share is relatively similar.
No, I think you could be right. I mean, I'm just wondering, could it be to the point where they're both at 30% target shares?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say like 28 for the both of them.
Yeah. And, Puka Nacua, he's at 74.5 on DraftKings. And I don't even think
so that's why, but that is why I brought that up, because I'm like, come on.
Right. I got one for you, too. A little off the board here, but Jatavian Sanders over 19.5 receiving yards.
All right.
Hear me out, right? So last year, before he had, I don't know if you remember, he had a pretty scary neck injury down the sidelines. I forget what game it was, but it was nasty, and you could see him literally land on his head as his neck compresses and disappears into his body like a slinky. And I will never forget it, because you had the broadcaster, whoever it was, and he's like, it's an incompletion, and they're showing the replay, and the guy's neck is just disappearing, into his spine. And he's just like, yeah, man, hey, just do a little shaking up there. Like, dude, he might not walk again. And he did. He returned a couple weeks later, but they just played it off as like, all right, well, get him off the field, scrape his body up, let's get some football going. He was having some nice games up until that point. He was a rookie. This is the type of guy who's had a remarkable camp. He's faster, he's lighter, and we could say that doesn't mean anything. Totally understood. Here's where I think there's a difference here. Number one, you're going up against the Jags team that's a believe it when you see it thing. Can Liam Cohen fix the offense? I don't know. How much is Travis Hunter going to play? Who knows? If he on defense, if he plays a lot against Ted McMillan, they don't have anyone else. They just sent Adam Thielen back to Minnesota. Jalen Coker was going to be one of their top options behind McMillan, and he just hit the IR with an injury in practice. So you've got McMillan, who's never played a game at the NFL level, who, by the way, I think he's going to be good, and I have no problems going to him. He might see a bunch of Travis Hunter, which doesn't really worry me all that much. But outside of that, what Xavier Legette? Who do they have?
Yeah, so, I was looking at Legette because he had a low number, and he had some games towards the end of the year. But yeah, I think you're right on the yards have to go somewhere.
And Sanders, I'm willing to have pie on my face after this one, but I think he could be actually good. And, you see a lot of these tight ends spring up, right? Second year tight ends, third year tight ends kind of spring up and you go, yeah, you know what? All the signs were there. I think he's one of them. Theo Johnson in New York is another one of those guys that I think could surprise some people. Not every tight end has Brock Bowers type season or Sam Laporta type
That's
rookie
it.
season.
They're the only two.
Right. That's right.
All right. So I guess in honor of how we used to end the show last year, let's do the best we can to cook up one of our, one leg at a time pirate parlays. And going back to some of these names that we talked about here, I think we have some alt opportunities. So we're just going to look for some alts on some of these names that we gave out. I think one that we could start with that's nice and easy is a Cedric Tillman.
Sure.
50 receiving yards, right? It's set at, like 39. Let's take him for 50 receiving yards.
I'll go. Well, I mean, yeah, give me Sanders in this spot. And then I've got, if we're going to go four legs, I'll throw a different one in as the fourth leg. So what do you want to do for the third leg?
So for the third leg, I'll go Marvin Harrison, 70 yards.
Okay. Looks like we're going all overs here, but it is week one, right? Let's have a little bit of fun.
You think these people want to click unders on a? Because remember, we're trying to do semi alts too, because they want a plus 200,000. They want to own the Bellagio after a $13 bet. So we try to give them some plus money alts. So I think those
Quite
two.
Frankly, no, you know what? Nobody really wants to bet unders. Of course not. The unders are good. You're going to find a lot of profitability there, and there's going to be some great spots, especially when some of these players get steamed up closer to lock. I get it.
What about that Ramondre rushing?
Since you didn't go Douglas, let's go with Ramondre there because we both like that one, right?
Yeah, definitely. So should we go 50, or should we get ballsy? Go 60?
Oh shit! I forgot that we laddered these up last year. I totally forgot that.
Yeah, so we try to ladder two each, just a little bit, and give them something to think about.
All right. Yeah. Let's go.
So we'll do that. So we're gonna go Cedric Tillman, 50 receiving yards. Marvin Harrison Jr., 70 receiving yards. We're going with Ramondre Stevenson, 50 rushing yards, and then what was yours? Was it just the over?
Sanders. Let me see where he's at.
No,
now.
yeah, let's go standard over on Sanders. And
yeah, I'm saying I don't know if he's still at 19.5, but if he's at like 20.5 or whatever, I'd still.
Oh man! Oh wow! They're gonna move him up to 22. I mean, he's either getting it in two catches.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say one thing though, guys. At the very least, just at least shop the odds on different books for these, because sometimes you'll get pretty dramatic shifts in odds for a four-leg parlay. Some of these books are going to have big parlay promos, right? They're going to have no sweat bets for week one. Take advantage of them with these type of things. Don't leave money genuinely don't leave money on the table. Yeah, we're throwing a lotto ticket out there, but we actually did hit a couple of these last year.
Yeah.
And, if you get a boost on it and say you're only going to put 5 or 10 and 10 is the limit, boost it, or do the no sweat bets. Make sure to do that. Don't leave them on the table.
All right, Dave. I think this was just getting our feet wet here. I think we'll get into a groove as the weeks go on. Get a full Sunday under our belts. See what's what with these teams. See what we make of these things, and then see what they have. Demario Douglas's receiving yards next week. What they set it at after we easily take that down week one. Before we go, just remind everybody where they can find you and your bets and your videos. And
yeah, man, always a pleasure. By the way, I love doing this show. I'm glad to be back. But yeah, head up the links. Andy threw the link in the description. Take you over to Tails. All of those bets, like there are people that have premium accounts, and stuff that subscriptions that you could jump into. But all of those bets there that you'll see, and there's a lot of them, especially for football and college and baseball that are free. Create a free account, takes literally 2 seconds, and then just follow whoever you want. That's it. And then check me out over on the Odds Shopper channel. Odds Shopper, all one word. We got bets and we got picks all week and all season and all month.
Yeah, I'll put that. I'll make sure I put that at the end of the video, like one of those little tiles that pop up. Thank you guys so much for coming back. Do me a favor. I know we haven't really mentioned it, but it obviously helps. The same thing I'm going to ask you. I'm the guy who asked for the same exact favor, and that is just click some buttons. Click the like. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel if you like this video. I got more videos coming out, NFL, NHL, comedy pods. I hope you are there for all of them. I look forward to the rest of this season. Dave, I will see you next week for week 2. Dave and a Dan.
Good luck, guys.